Hello everyone, welcome to this lecture 3 of week 11 for the course Metrics and Analytics of Marketing. Today we will be starting with a new topic. We will try to look into various metrics associated with the web and social media. As we know that today's era is the era of digital marketing. If you look at the industry is going somewhere around 12 to 15% CAGR. So that is why along with the effectiveness of the traditional promotional campaigns, we also need to look into the effectiveness, success rate of the advertisement or promotions that is initiated in the web space as well as in the social media space. We will look into various metrics to measure this kind of effectiveness. One thing that we can argue here is that in digital media, in digital space, basically it is easier to capture the data because data is captured in real time. But in case of traditional communication or traditional media, it becomes a bit of difficult for us to measure the success factors because most of the things are related to perceptions. Probably we might have to end up doing a market survey, and then there are a lot of issues come whether the data is biased or not because of while capturing the data there was the impact of social desirability. So all these things come into picture. But in case of a digital space, we can directly measure the sequence of events, sequence of activities that is performed by the prospects at various stages. We can also measure how the phases of awareness, interest, then actual purchase, all these things happen in real time. As a whole, what we can look into is that the consumer behavior in the digital space, which is captured in real time. Let's dive more into why the online metrics matter. Web specific metrics are needed because the internet, like the direct mail, serves not only as a mere medium of communication, but in today's scenario it also acts as a sales channel. Many things can happen through email. Users send a proposition to the prospect might ask you with certain queries where the interest of the prospect will be displayed. Similarly, the prospect might end up purchasing something because of this email. So it is not a mere channel for communication, it is a channel for sales as well. Online metrics help to measure how the customer move from opportunity to see to actual action or to actual purchase, instead of relying on the opinions, which is perception based. That is why online metrics helps us accurately measure the effectiveness of the various digital promotional events. Many online measures are opportunities to see, so you must connect them with the business goals such as sales, orders or the new accounts. For example, you initiated with a social media campaign, social media post which is sponsored. Now from this social media you will be able to see in your dashboard how many clicks are being made, how many conversion is there, how many purchases are being made. So all this data will be captured in your dashboard. You can extract this data from your dashboard. So it is easier for you to measure or internalize the success or effectiveness of this social media post. Let us try to look into various online metrics. So we will start with the very basic metric called the page view. As the terminology suggests, it is the number of times a web page is served, a web page is visited, a web page is served by the server, a web page is loaded. If we look into the consideration of this metric, this particular metric represents the number of web pages served, number of time the pages are being loaded in the browser of the end user. The purpose of this metric is to provide a top level measure of the website. Means how many times the page is being loaded on your browser from the server. This is a count of the number of files served to the visitors on the web. Because the web pages often contain multiple files, heat is the function not only of the pages visited. Now we are looking into another metric which is related to the page views but slightly different, and that is called heat. So basically in each of these web pages there can be multiple files. There can be multiple JavaScript file, there can be multiple HTML file, there can be multiple server file, scripting file. So once you load this particular web page, all these files are loaded. So now this particular heat, because all these files will be loaded in the browser from the server, it helps you identify, it helps you realize the server load, right. Heat counts are likely to be more relevant to technicians responsible for planning the server capacity than to marketers interested in measuring the visitor activity. Fine. So basically it gives you an idea about the function, the relationship between the page views and the load in the server, because it represents the number of files that is associated with a page view. Numerically or formula wise, heats equal to number of page views multiplied by files on the page. So this gives you the total heats. We can also look into this situation with an example. If a website served 3 files per page and generated 30,000 or 3 lakhs page views, then the heat should be 3 lakhs multiplied by 3, that is 9 lakhs. Let us reiterate the definition of the page views. It is the number of page views can be easily calculated by dividing the number of hits by the number of files on that particular page. So if you know what is the number of hits and if we know number of files in a particular web page, then we can calculate the page views. So we are just deducing a different equation from the basic equation. Let us look at this with an example. Let us say there are 2,50,000 hits on a website and that serves 5 files each time. So therefore the page views will be 2,50,000 divided by 5, that is 50,000. So if we know the page views, we can calculate the hits provided the number of files per page is known to us, and the vice versa. If we know the hits and the number of files, then we can calculate the page views from it. Now let us look into a different metric called rich media display time. What do we mean by rich media? Rich media are those media which contains information beyond text, information beyond let us say image. It includes the video files, it includes the interactive tools. So one of the important metric associated with the rich media is that rich media display time. So how much time the media is being displayed. For example, the platforms like YouTube, they do not only take on the number of views, they also take account of whether the video is being viewed entirely, whether there had been interactions in the video. So all these things will be taken into consideration in order to measure the impact, measure the effectiveness of the campaign. As far as the construction of this rich media display time is concerned, it is the average time that rich media are being displayed per viewer. Remember that we will not look into the individual views, we will look into the aggregated view. That is the average time that the rich media is displayed per viewer. Right? Consideration, it can be heavily influenced by the unusually long display times, right. So what happens, sometimes there can be a lot of outliers in place. So sometimes you need to handle these outliers if you want to actually get the benefit of this particular metric. How data is gathered is an important consideration. So whether we are taking care of the outliers or outliers are being included in our calculation. So that impacts the interpretation. The purpose of this rich media display time is to measure the average viewing time of the rich media. Fine. Now let us look at the construction, let us look at the formula that can be used to calculate the rich media display time. Marketers use the rich media display time metric to monitor how long their advertisements are holding the attention of the potential customers. So as far as the formula is concerned, it can be captured in terms of total rich media display time divided by total rich media impression. So how many persons or how many times that rich media is being encountered and what is the total display time. So total display time divided by number of encounters or number of impressions gives you the average rich media display time. Now next related metric which is slightly different is called rich media interaction rate. So it is the next granular level of the rich media display time. Construction wise, it provides the fraction of viewers interacting with the rich media. So basically it is a subset of the rich media viewers. So there will be some viewers who will not interact with the media. There will be some viewers who will interact with the media. Interaction can be, let's say, clicking, expanding or some interactive events. So the fraction of people, fraction of the viewers who does some interaction with the rich media is called the rich media interaction, right. So rich media interaction rate is number of people interacting with the media divided by number of viewers of this rich media. As far as the consideration is concerned, the definition of the interaction should exclude the actions unrelated to the rich media. For instance, a mouse crossing the rich media to reach another part of the screen should not be a part of the calculation, should not be a part of the rich media interaction. Purpose of this matrix rich media interaction rate, as we have understood that it measures relative attractiveness of the rich media and ability to generate the viewer engagement. Fine. So now let us go into the detail of this rich media interaction rate. This particular metric is the number of impressions of an advertisement that were interacted with divided by the total number of impressions of that particular advertisement. It basically tells the marketers how successful any advertisement was at getting the potential customers to engage in some way, in terms of clicking, in terms of expanding or in terms of any other kind of interaction. So if I look at an example, a rich media advertisement that was displayed 100 times with an interaction rate of 15%, this would mean that 15 of the impressions resulted in some kind of interactions and 85 of the views, 85 of the encounters did not result in any interaction. Fine. So formula wise, it is the total rich media impressions with interactions divided by total rich media impressions. Now we will look into another metric which is called the click through rate. As far as construction of this metric is concerned, it basically refers to the number of click throughs as a fraction of the number of impressions. How many times that particular social media advertisement, social media post is being clicked. So basically number of clicks divided by number of encounter gives you the click through rate. So this particular metric is important to look into the visibility or interest of this particular post, particular initiative. An interactive measure of web advertising has great strength, but clicks represent only a step toward the conversion and are thus an intermediate advertising goal. It is not the top of the funnel metric, it is middle of the funnel metric, neither it is the bottom of the funnel metric. It does not guarantee that click through is resulting in a sale, but click through is definitely a step towards the sale. Purpose is to measure the effectiveness of a web advertisement by counting those customers who are sufficiently intrigued to click through it. So basically it can show you some level of interest. So it is beyond awareness, but it can be well below, behind actual purchase. Click-through rate is the percentage of impressions that lead a user to click on an advertisement. It describes the fraction of impressions that motivate users to click on a link, causing a redirect to another web location. So, nowadays we are bombarded with a lot of paid campaigns, right. So, some of the campaigns, some of the emails we will throw it in the bin, and some of the emails we might click it if we find something interesting. Okay. So, formula wise it is click through, number of click throughs divided by number of impression. So, one note that we need to keep in mind is that most internet based businesses are use the click through metrics. Although these metrics are useful, they should not dominate all the marketing analysis. Unless a user clicks on a buy now button, click through measure only one step along the path towards the final set. So, it is not the neither the top of the funnel metric nor the bottom of the funnel metric, it is the middle of the funnel metric. It is definitely one step towards the actual sale. We can just look into the workflow of this click through. So, potential customers, let us say potential customers encountered with a campaign or encountered with a advertisement. They will have two options. One, they do not click it, they put it in the dustbin, they put it in the spam. On another option is they will click in the email. So, click through rate captures the number of clicking on the advertisement. So, after clicking also it can again go out of the process, cancel before the ad was served, or it can go to a new page for another activity, for another action. Fine. Now, another important metric which is called the cost per click. This advertisement in digital space, it does not come free. Even if you are running a social media campaign, a sponsored post in the social media, you have to pay to the platform. Now, what is the cost of the click? Because click represents a interest level. So, now we need to understand what is the cost of exposing our product to the people who are interested. So, that can be captured under this metric called cost per click. Construction wise, it is average cost divided by the number of clicks that is generated from the campaign. When it comes to consideration, often used as a billing mechanism. Some of the companies, some of the let us say platforms, they do not charge you a fixed rate. In that case, they will charge you depending on the number of clicks. So, this is captured, this is done through click through rate. The purpose is to measure or establish the cost effectiveness of the advertisement. Now, another important metric which is called the cost per acquisition. So, basically, before cost per acquisition we have another metric called cost per order. They are similar but slightly different. We will look into the differences as we move through both the concepts. So, cost per order construction wise, advertising cost divided by the number of orders generated. So, basically it is the what is the cost that I have incurred in boosting this post, and what is the number of orders that I have received which can be attributed only to this advertisement, only to this post. That gives me the value of cost per order. More directly related to the profit than the cost per click, because we are talking about the end outcome, but less effective in measuring the impact of pure advertising, because sometimes the advertisement is not done for immediate order, it is done for awareness level, it is done for product knowledge. So, if those things are in place, then probably cost per order is not the right metric to look into. An advertisement may generate strong click through but yield weak conversion due to the disappointing product. As far as the purpose of this metric is concerned, it is used to measure or establish the cost effectiveness of the advertising. Fine. Next, we will look into another similar metric which is called the cost per acquisition. So, cost per acquisition is something related to the customers, new customer, how many customers I have generated rather than how many orders. So, advertising cost divided by the number of customers acquired. We are concentrating on the number of customers rather than number of orders. Consideration, it is useful for the purposes of comparison to customers lifetime value, that we have already seen in some of our previous sessions, right. So, we discussed that customer lifetime value has to be greater than customer acquisition cost, and rule of thumb says that it has to be close, minimum of 3 times of the customer's acquisition cost. The purpose of this metric is to measure or establish the cost effectiveness of the advertising. Fine. So, now we will quickly look into some of the associated metrics of the web and social media. First one is cost per impression, cost per click and cost per order. So, we will just quickly go through it, we will just reiterate these concepts. These metrics measure the average cost of impressions, clicks and customers. All are calculated in the same way as the ratio of the cost to the number of resulting impressions, clicks or customers. So, now the cost per impression equal to advertising cost in terms of dollar divided by number of impressions. There is another variation of this metric called CPM, cost per miles. So, it is advertising cost in dollars divided by number of impressions in thousands, or cost per thousand impression, whichever way you try to you describe it, it is the same. So, what is the advertising cost divided by number of impression in thousands. Then cost per click, it is advertising cost divided by number of clicks, cost per order advertising cost divided by number of orders. So, these metrics are the starting point of assessing the effectiveness of a company's internet advertising or advertising in the digital space, and this can be used for comparison across the advertising media and other channel of advertising. For example, you can make a good comparison between effectiveness of the TV advertisement versus effectiveness of the social media advertisement with the help of this matrix. Fine. So, this is what for today. I will just like to conclude this session with a quote, with a statement that online metrics are most valuable when they connect opportunities to see and click behavior to the outcomes that matter, such as orders and cost per order. Thank you. I hope to see you in the next class.